All right, thank you, everybody. It's 6 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and get started with the council meeting. Just want to acknowledge the Whadjuk people as the traditional owners of the greater Fremantle area, and we recognize their cultural heritage and beliefs are still important today. But I also acknowledge that we meet here today on land that was never ceded, and I wholeheartedly support the many campaigns for truth-telling, justice, and reconciliation here and across this country. For those for everyone that's in the audience or folks that are unaware, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live online. And while all care is taken to maintain privacy, visitors in the public gallery and members of the public submitting a question may be captured in the recording. So just be aware of that. And for attendance, apologies, and leave of absence, we did receive an application for a leave of absence for Councillor Van Dorsen. That's from today through Sunday, November 20th. If I could get a mover and seconder for that.
Check.
Yeah.
She can, but it will only take effect from tomorrow. It's okay. It's 30th of November, actually.
Yeah, my apologies, 30th of November. It was moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Kamada. All those in favor? Great, unanimous. And we also have an application for a request for a leave of absence from Councillor Williamson Wong, and that's from Monday, Saturday the 20th of December, through to Tuesday, the 10th of February, 2026, which that just sounds weird when saying that 2026. All right, can I get a mover for that? Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Moughlin. All those in favor? Great, that's unanimous as well. Do we have any other applications for leave of absence? No? Okay, wonderful. We'll move on to the disclosures of interest. We've got one here from Councillor Graham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'd declare an interest in item C2511-20, the Fremantle Park Centre item, the confidential item. I'm a full member of the Fremantle Bowling Club, which automatically makes me a member of that institution. I will be doing an impartiality interest, and I intend to stay in the room and vote. Okay?
Great. Thank you, Councillor Graham. Any other disclosures of interest? Councillor Slaughter.
I would like to acknowledge that I have impartiality interest in item C2511-14. I own a short stay accommodation property. As we're repealing a law or voting on the repeal of a law that no longer exists, I intend to stay and vote on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Slaughter. Any other declarations of interest? No? Great. Responses to previous public questions that were taken on notice, those are now contained in the agenda. If anyone has any questions on those, they're more than happy to have a look at that. Now we'll just move to public question time, and I've got a couple speakers listed here. But basically how public question time goes, if you'd like to speak, you have 3 minutes to make a statement. At the end of 3 minutes, there'll be an alarm that sounds, and then we just kind of ask that you try to wrap up when you hear that alarm, if you haven't finished already. So if that's all right, we'll just go ahead and go straight to Deborah Friedman? Deborah? No? Okay. All right. And then we've also got Tony, sorry, take my glasses, Mangiano. Do you wish to speak, Tony? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Good evening, Honourable Mayor, Councillors. I'm here in regards to an item C2511-15, which is to do with the electrical services tender, which is before the committee tonight. I am the owner and operator of North Lake Electrical, and we have been operating since 1985. Over this time, we've provided services to local and state government departments. I have concerns in regards to the evaluation of the tender. We strongly believe the evaluation results do not reflect the level of detail and documented understanding that we submitted in our tender response. We currently hold the contract for electrical services and have done so since awarded in 2019 and again in 21, where we scored over 90%. We have met all the requirements of the contract and have scored 100% for all of the KPIs put forward. Our current submitted tender also offered a better pricing than the proposed tender. We do not understand why we scored less now in relevant experience, key personnel, skills, resources, demonstrated understanding, sustainability, than we did in the previous submissions, where the RFQ documents called for the exact same details to be submitted, which was the case along with additional documentation to further our scoring. On average, we scored around 50% on each of the qualitative criteria, yet successfully carrying out the exact same contract since being awarded the contract in 19 and 21 with 100% scoring on KPIs. My request tonight is that I would like to request the committee rejects the proposed evaluation outcome on the tender, electrical services infrastructure, and appoints a review by an independent panel for re-evaluation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for those comments and questions. I might just refer those to the relevant director to respond, if that's okay.
Thank you. Through the chair.
Officers follow a prescribed, organised approach to procurement at the city. That's in accordance with our procurement policy and the Local Government Act. The tender and evaluation process is really quite well structured and is also subject to procurement oversight along the way as well. Tenders following evaluation subsequently go to a major procurement assessment panel before they come to committee, and the process is reviewed and tested again. So this tender has been through that process. I would say it's difficult to compare tenders from previous submissions. Timeframes change, people change, and scoring evaluation methodologies sometimes change as well. Most important thing for us is when the panel take an approach, it's consistent and it's fair and it's logical. I'm satisfied that the process has been followed and the outcome is fair and logical. You did present a good submission. Nobody's disputing that. It's just there was a better one. I understand you've talked to somebody in procurement and that they've provided some feedback and offered to meet you again if you've got any further questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Graham. Is there anyone else that would like to speak during public question time too? Great. Are you Deborah? Yes. Oh, wonderful, great. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and then there'll be an alarm that sounds, and if you can, just kind of wrap up. Oh, those will go through staff. Sorry, Deborah. Can you hand those to staff? Yes. No, I appreciate it. Thank you. And we'll just start the timer when you start speaking.
Thank you. So I'm Deborah Friedman. I have 2 properties located in North Fremantle, close to the Dingo Flour Mill. One is mixed use, the other residential. I pay approximately $14,000 per annum in rates. For this money, I'm no longer permitted to have commercial bins collected. I've had to call and write multiple letters to council to re-establish a bin collection for my residents above the commercial property. And although this was incorrectly taken away from me, no offer of any refund of rates was given. Since the commercial waste pickup ceased, there's an increase in rubbish flying around the area and dumping of rubbish near the Dingo Flour Mill. There are no council bins in the vicinity, and I often clean the streets myself, picking up needles, often discarded by patrons who visit at a local business. In this vicinity in North Fremantle, there are no public car parks. When I built my mixed-use property 20 or so years ago, I was forced to provide 8 parking bays for customers. Currently, I have no commercial tenant in my property, yet my car park is often full of cars from 5 a.m. onwards with people who are effectively trespassing, and I'm told that if I require the council to assist me with signs, I have to pay around $2,000 to make this happen and will have ongoing annual fees. The patrons visiting the new business on the corner of Stirling Highway and Leslie Road constantly use my car park, or they park illegally on the yellow lines around the corner. I've given photos out that show how unsafe this is. This is causing major traffic hazards as buses, trucks, and waste disposal services need to use the road. The business has only a few car bays around the back, and most bays are taken up with their staff parking. The footpaths all around my properties are broken, unsightly and dangerous. The street verges are not looked after, they're not planted out, they're dusty and full of dead weeds, and I've had to write letters in order to get a street sweeper to clean. This is the only strip of land between the City of Perth and the City of Fremantle that still has the unsightly overhead power lines sitting close to the highway. There's a welcome to the City of Fremantle sign just up the road. When you look north to Mosman Park, you see green verges and plants. When you look south, you see dust, weeds, and graffiti. I asked the council and mayor, why is this part of the city so neglected? Why am I told by council staff to contact multiple different departments to find resolve? Why don't the council take pride in this area so close to the Dingo Flour Mill? And what will be done about the parking issues in the area? And what exactly am I getting for my $14,000? As it doesn't seem that any part of this is used in my area of town. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah, and also thank you for your personal efforts to help keep the rubbish off the streets. I appreciate that. If I might just refer some those questions, because you had a fair few of them, to the CEO, and then maybe some directors who may be able to answer those tonight.
Thank you very much for your statements today. Look, it's fair, some of that it requires a little bit of detail, so we'll generally take them on notice and provide a response in writing back to you. The city is quite prepared to take a look at some of these issues you raise and get out there and make sure we're aware of what's going on out in that bit. And I reiterate the Mayor's comments, we're thankful for anyone who takes part in their community and keeping it clean. But this is probably something better for us to go out and investigate a little bit more and come back to you fully in writing.
Wonderful. Any other statements from the public during public question time? No? Okay. That moves us on to petitions, and I understand we have one petition here, and someone may be on hand to speak to the petition as well? Great, wonderful. If you want to give the petition, I believe, to Councillor Clark, then you can, if you want to speak to it in any order, it's fine. Great.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. When the Fremantle Traffic Bridge closes, it will significantly change the traffic movements in North Fremantle, and we're concerned about the impact of rat running through Pierce Street and Jackson Street. These are residential streets, and the increased cut-through traffic threatens safety, amenity, and livability. We are asking Council to examine practical options to minimise these impacts, potentially making Pierce Street a left turn out only onto Tideman, or potentially creating a cul-de-sac at the end of Pierce Street on the Tideman Road end. These measures would prevent rat running, reduce congestion, and protect residents, pedestrians, and cyclists. The official crash data from the Pierce-Tideman intersection does not reflect the residents' experience. Main Roads shows 14 crashes at that intersection between 2020 and 2024. This includes 5 hospitalizations, but in reality, residents are witnessing accidents there every 4 to 6 weeks, many of which go unreported. Cycling safety is another critical issue. Pierce Street is currently a key corridor for riders because the PSP connection to North Fremantle Station has been delayed. Until that PSP is delivered, Pierce Street is the de facto route for commuters and families. Rat running traffic directly undermines cycling safety. Importantly, earlier this year, Pierce Street was blocked for several months after the Albert Hall fire. During that closure, residents saw clear benefit, traffic volumes dropped significantly, cycling and walking felt safer, and the street regained a residential character. This period demonstrated that restricting access can deliver real improvements for safety and amenity. In conclusion, we urge the Council to act now by restricting movements or closing Pierce Street off to Tideman Road. Fremantle can safeguard our community, support active transport, and ensure North Fremantle remains safe and family-friendly. Thanks.
Right, thank you. It is a beautiful street, and that petition will be received, and the officers of the administration will respond to that. Just so you know, that response will be at a future meeting. But if anyone on the administration wanted to make a few comments on that now, or no? Or if Councillor Clark wants to, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for coming in and bringing the petition in, Wesley. Appreciate that. I've been very aware for decades of the rat running that happens in there. I've had friends live in that street, and I do get often feedback from residents about the problems there, the significant increases in traffic throughout North Fremantle, which will be overflowing when the bridge closure happens, is a problem. We acknowledge that. We have been working behind the scenes on that, and we are looking at solutions. So thank you. This contributes to us looking at Pierce Street and including that in the solutions. So we'll be in touch.
There's no other petitions. We will move on to deputations. Seeing none. Presentations. Seeing none. On to confirmation of the minutes from the meeting on the 12th of November. Can I get someone to move in second?
Can I make a comment? Thanks.
I'm sorry, please, Councillor Graham.
Yeah, look, it's to do with my question and a little bit of a rant at the last meeting about the closure of the Henderson Street car park. If you notice on page 8 of the minutes from that meeting, my questions have not been answered. The city will provide an answer to council in relation to the revenue of the car park as soon as possible. Well, we've had 2 weeks for that, and there is no mention of how much the council is going to make out of the activation of this space to cover that loss of income to the city. Can we perhaps have an update on that, please, Mr Mayor?
I don't have those figures, and it's more of an elected member communication, but we'll just count that as being done now. I don't know if the administration has any.
I've brought it up now.
Oh, great. Sorry. Any reply to that?
Through the chair, the revenue from that car park was captured through general on-street parking, so we don't have an individual figure for it, but we can do some modelling to work out an estimate. And as far as the activation goes, we do have a series of activations planned, including events being delivered by the Fremantle markets, as well as surrounding businesses coming out and activating it through al fresco.
I don't want to prolong it, but does that mean we're going to actually get some money from the Fremantle markets to pay for this activation?
Through the chair, they do pay a licence fee for that privilege.
All right, well, no other comments on the minutes. Just ask that someone move and second those. Can we have Councillor Slaughter seconded Councillor Sullivan? All those in favor of accepting the minutes? All those against? So Councillor Graham is against, everyone else in favor. Elected member communication. My apologies. Councillor Williamson-Wong.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. I thought it would be important to note in the council meeting tonight that myself, Councillor Clark and Councillor Van Dawson went to meet with Simone McGurk last week to discuss, the measures that the city is advocating for with the bridge closure. We had, I would say, quite a productive meeting. It's always good to talk to the influential decision makers about these things, to thank the state government for what they've announced so far and to put forward 3 further things that we would like to see. So I thought I would just note those, and they were to incentivise public transport by allowing bikes on trains and to allow free smart rider travel for users of the Fremantle line based on the Armidale model. The second was to have no freight during peak periods, and the third would be to support our city to implement low-cost temporary road interventions to support safe streets and rat running, much like the petition. And I guess to note that we will continue those conversations, and yeah, I look forward to hopefully us being able to meet with Simone again to discuss that, and hopefully the Deputy Premier and Minister for Transport.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Williamson-Wong. Great effort by everyone. Any other elected member communication? Councillor Mofflin.
Thank you. I just wanted to share with Council the, I suppose, the opportunity and privilege and responsibility that I had last week to speak at the opening of the Legal Centre's White Ribbon Day presentation. And for those who aren't familiar, White Ribbon Day is a day to address men's and boys' attitudes and behaviours towards women, and ultimately look to improve outcomes from a family and domestic violence perspective. The Legal Centre annually put on a display acknowledging and respecting the women around Australia who have been victims in the most obscene fashion and have been murdered essentially at the hands of men. And this year they presented the stories of those women, often next to an urn to represent those particular women. And I wanted to acknowledge Judy McLean, the Chief Solicitor from the Legal Centre, who runs a fantastic service, and one that this city fully supports. And Judy shared with me some statistics that I just want to share with this group now, so to keep this in the forefront of our mind, and that 17% of women have experienced physical or sexual violence from a partner since the age of 15, and millions more have endured emotional abuse. And last year alone, over 32,000 women were victims of sexual assault, and 175 lives were lost to family and domestic violence. Here in Western Australia, 38,000 family and domestic violence incidents were reported, and 73% of those victims were women. In Perth alone, that's around 24,000 incidents. And of course, that's only the reported incidents that are picked up. Last year, this council, 12 months ago, this council acknowledged the 16 days of activism against violence against women, and really pleased that since that time the city has been working with Curtin University in a primary preventative initiative, and continues to work to develop and evaluate a program targeting people aged 18 to 29, the group statistically most likely to be impacted by family and domestic violence, either as a victim or a perpetrator. And as I understand, this work with Curtin University is actually leading and groundbreaking work that's been completed by a local government, and I think a great recognition of the city's leadership role in this space, and I look forward to us continuing to take action to address what is a scourge in our society.
Thank you, Councillor Moughlin. Any other elected member communication? Yeah, Councillor Clark.
I just wanted to mention that I had the privilege of attending ChangeFest last week, which is a big Indigenous-led gathering of people from all across the country to talk about change moving forward and making things better for our Indigenous mob right around the country. And it has been in many other states. It had not been here in WA, and finally it came right here to Welyallup. It was a brilliant experience, and it was very informative, and we listened with our 2 ears and tried to remain as quiet with our 1 mouth as we could while we were there. We were encouraged to take in what we heard, to feel with our hearts. It's okay to feel bad through your tummies as well if it doesn't feel right, and we had some difficult conversations. It was such a beautiful experience, and I want to thank all of the city crew who arranged everything. I want to thank all of the people involved across the whole program, Imagine Futures and all of those people. It was very big. We had Tanya Plibersek here. We had Narelda Jacobs back here on her home turf, and it was a very impressive conference. Conference doesn't seem to be the right word. It's completely the wrong word for what that was. It was very meaningful, and there will be great outcomes and great inspirations from what occurred at that 3 days. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Clark. Any other elected member communication? No? Okay. All right. Well, that moves us into the strategic and general reports portion of our meeting, which will start with the Sir Frederick Sampson Reserve Master Plan and Management Plan. I just need someone to move in second. Moved by Councillor Moughlin, seconded by Councillor Slaughter. Great. To you.
Yeah, happy just to speak to open this and acknowledge the work of the city in engaging the community in the development of the master plan and the management plan, and also acknowledge the passion and advocacy of the Sampson community to get to this point over many years, and the input that they've provided to this plan. And I look forward to seeing the broader community provide their input on the plan, and what comes in the future is a beautifully updated Sampson Park.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak? I just don't have anything to add to what Councillor Moughlin said, other than the staff really did an exceptional job getting this to this point and engaging with the community, and just wanted to acknowledge all that wonderful work. So, did you want to close, Councillor Moughlin? No? Great. All right. All those in favor? Wonderful. Yeah, it's unanimous. Right now, we've got, the next item is our outdoor events policy, and there was a minor amendment proposed after the deadline that we'll also potentially be considering if that's moved. But can I get someone to move the item itself and second it? Moved by Councillor Williamson Wong, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Great.
Great, thank you. I'm excited to see this come through. The one comment that I probably have, well, maybe in like the top 5 comments that I get when people find out that I sit on council is, OMG, can you please bring laneway back? I'm not sure that this policy will necessarily bring laneway back, but it's good to see a policy put forward and for us to, bring one in to formalise the way that we do outdoor events in Fremantle. We know that they're really important to us, our identity and also the local economy. I had flagged a minor amendment at the IEM, but I understand that not everyone was there. That really was, came up, the only reason I thought about it was when I read through the policy and noted that under standards for events, it says refrain from advertising gambling and tobacco. And I thought of our own policy and the importance, I think as a council, that decision was to, I guess, include fossil fuel advertising in that group of
Are you moving the amendment now?
And now I would like to move
Okay,
the...
can we get a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Okay,
Thank you.
Speak to it.
Thank you. So really, this doesn't change anything within the outdoor events policy. It just flags that we have a fossil fuel advertising policy that restricts advertising of fossil fuels to within 48 hours of an event. So if there was an event that was wanting to come to Fremantle and they were sponsored by a fossil fuel company as defined in our policy, they would need to have that up or down within 48 hours of the event. I think it's important to acknowledge the role that sponsorships play in bringing these events to life and often the different benefits that can come from the fact that this money exists, especially in our state. But at the same time, I think the fossil fuel advertising and sponsorship policy that we introduced sends a message that we're not welcoming it as a kind of marker in our town constantly. And we're not going to be like the City of Perth with the skyline of fossil fuel execs and corporations. So this amendment really just says that and notifies people who are coming to propose an outdoor event that we have a policy that will need to be adhered to. And that's why I thought it would be useful.
Thank you. Any other comments or about the proposed amendment before us now? Councillor Moughlin.
Thanks. I support the intent, but I can't support the amendment itself. We have plenty of policies that exist around lots of things, and I think that it's administratively cumbersome to reference one policy and then not every single other one, and I wouldn't want to see every single policy that would then apply to potential outdoor events listed in the outdoor events policy. So I don't think it works. And this being the right place for us to include as part of this, so I won't support the amendment.
Anyone else on the amendment? Councillor Graham.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll be consistent on this. I spoke against the fossil fuel policy when it was brought in, and I think I said at the time if we could get Santos to sponsor the Fremantle Park Centre, it would solve a lot of problems. So I will leave it at that.
Anyone else on the amendment? Did you want to close? Okay.
Yeah, I will just quickly. The only thing I'd say is, yes, perhaps it is, we have many policies that would apply. I also think from an events point of view, if you were an event that was looking to be in Fremantle, maybe you wouldn't necessarily pick up on a fossil fuel advertising policy. And so the intent is also to make sure that we don't end up, accidentally with an event here that has that advertising there. But I take your point completely because we have a whole list of policies that everyone has to adhere to all the time.
Great, thank you. All right, now on the amendment itself, all those in favour? Councillor Slaughter, Councillor Clark, Sullivan, Williamson, Wong, and Lawver. All those against? That's Councillor Kamada, Graham, and Mouflin. That amendment is carried. So now we're on to the item as amended, the outdoor events policy. Does anyone wish to speak on the item?
I have a question. Yeah, sorry, and I should have flagged this earlier. It was a question around the noise limits in the policy, because I know previously there have been events that have either, I know in the report said that they didn't exceed the noise limits, but we've had complaints, and I know we've had, I think, Juicy Fest or something. There's been a few that have been problematic and maybe at the top end of the noise scale. I was just wondering whether or not that feedback has been included and the noise limits have been reduced or anything like that. And sorry for not giving you notice of that question.
Through the chair, normal noise limits apply to outdoor events. We monitor them through our environmental health team. We've had very few complaints through the outdoor events specifically. And Juicy Fest, as an example, we are no longer allowing them to come back to the destination as a result.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. I just wanted to emphasise the importance of having this policy, and particularly for newer elected members. I mean, there was a time when every time we had an event, we would have to go through a fairly torturous process of deciding whether the community concern about having an event in their neighbourhood should outweigh having events at all. Because, you know, it's always the case that having an event, say at South Beach or Sampson Park or wherever, doesn't really matter. There are some people who are going to say, look, I'd rather just have my quiet enjoyment. But then as a community, as a whole, as a city, we pride ourselves on being a very culturally active city and an events destination, an events city. And it was decided that we ought to come up with a way that basically shared the love around, shared the culture around, made sure it was equitable overall, and made sure that we weren't putting too great a burden on any particular area of Fremantle. And since we've had this policy in place, I think it's been a hell of a lot easier for event organisers to come to the city and plan for their events, for our staff to move forward with some greater degree of confidence that they can negotiate with those people and put events on, but also to ensure that the ground rules are pretty clear and established from the day dot. And I think it's been incredibly successful for the city to have a really sound policy. I didn't speak on the amendment, but I did support it because essentially in that second section, it does talk about the tobacco and gambling issues and the like. And I see the sponsorship issue sitting very comfortably in that list of dot points. I don't think it's singling out one issue. It's adding those issues back into standards for the events, which I think is a very important one to include in there. So hopefully we can all support this this new version of the policy.
Great, thank you. Councillor Slaughter.
Thank you. I too agree with the officer's recommendations on this. I just would like to note, however, on the changes to the expression of interest process, that it relies quite heavy on relationships between city staff and event promoters or the industry. So I just wanted to note that the success, like it says, the success of this approach will rely on officers' ability to maintain strong industry relationships. So we need to put support behind that as well.
Great, thank you. Any other comments on the policy as amended? No, great, we'll go to a vote. All right, all those in favor? That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, on to the next item, which is review of the short stay accommodation local law, signs, hoardings, and bill posting model local law, which I believe the review is calling for repeal of both of those. Can we get a mover and seconder for those? Moved by Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Williamson Wong. Right, any comments? No? All right, all those in favor? And that's also unanimous. Wonderful. Okay, we're now in the statutory reports. I'm going to just see if we can't move these en bloc. So I'm just going to go through them. If you do want to speak on any of these items, just indicate the interest and I'll pull that one out separately. The first one is the electrical services. Yeah, probably do that one separate. All right, the budget amendments for this number 16. No. Item 17, the statement of investments. No. Item 18, payment of accounts for October. Okay, I'll pull that one out. And 19, monthly financial report. Okay, so what I'll do now is I will ask someone to move 16, 17, and 19 en bloc. That's by Councillor Slaughter, seconded by Councillor Sullivan. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Great. And now we'll come back to item 15, which I can have someone move and second. That's the electrical services. Moved by Councillor Slaughter, seconded by Councillor Moughlin. Okay, any comments on that item?
Thank you, Mayor. Obviously, the matter has been raised by one of the contractors, our existing contractor, and part of the item is included in the confidential attachments related to the, I guess, the monetary aspect of it. And I would like to speak to that to a degree, but I'm not confident I can do so without actually talking about the confidential aspects of the report. So can I request that you hold this item over until we deal with the other item, and then move into a confidential conversation about the item, if that's acceptable to you, rather than do the confidential aspect now and then come back, you know.
Through the chair, the item's been moved and seconded, so it's on the table. I would propose that maybe we debate it first, and if we think we need to go into something of more confidentiality, then we'll just have to go behind closed doors now.
Can I ask a question on that? If we want to go behind closed doors now, can we do the other item at the same time?
Yes, you could.
Okay, well, I'll do it now. So we've heard from the contractor, who has been a contractor at the city for some time, and presumably understands what the contract is about, presumably understands the detail of it, and obviously would have had the expertise required to operate it. And so the concern that was being raised does seem to be one that would need more explanation to the council to make a decision. So, you know, the way we're left reading the report is that the contractor is significantly less understanding of the contract requirements, doesn't have the personnel, you know, breaking it down into the categories, haven't got it right in front of me, doesn't have the personnel compared to other contractors, and hasn't particularly, I guess, demonstrated an understanding to the same level as the other contractors, which is kind of difficult to understand how that could be the case if they have already been the contractor, unless the contractors that scored more highly in those three first categories are just so well presented and so professional or whatever, and on a different sort of playing field than the current contractor is. So I do find it a difficult one. Haven't really had one like this come to us before. I know as an elected member that we're not obliged to accept the lowest contract, and we're not obliged to accept the recommended contract. And so I felt it was reasonable for us to have a debate about it, particularly when the contractor that we're selecting is certainly not the lowest contractor in terms of price, as can be seen from the chart. So I'm interested to know what other elected members say. I know that, yes, we do go through a very well planned process, but there obviously is always going to be a degree of subjectivity in these things. You're reading inputs. It's not out of the question that people reviewing these things know the different contractors, know a little bit more about them than we do, perhaps, as elected members, and might have particular perspectives about different organisations and the like. And I know, having sat on juries for architectural competitions, it is incredibly difficult not to have some degree of subjectivity in what is obviously a fairly objective process based on the submissions, in theory, based on the submissions that are in front of you in black and white, as opposed to your knowledge of the industry more generally. If there was concern about the contractor's performance previously, then I would have presumed we might have been able to glean that from the commentary or the recommendation or some other way. So it's unfortunate that I have to, tiptoe around the edge of this, but it does feel a little bit strange when you take that in perspective. So interested to hear what others have to say.
Councillor Slaughter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was moved by the presentation from one of the alternate contractors today. I have to say, from the report, I didn't know that you were the existing contractor. But having said that, with questions answered from around the table tonight about feedback being given, having had a decent long tenure at, well, not tenure, but having been awarded that contract for a while and having had the opportunity to have feedback on work, that and the panel team gave me the confidence enough to move the officer's recommendation. Having said that, it's close. It's close in one sense. I would have expected a higher score, given now knowing that you are the existing tender winner from previous decisions. I'm surprised that perhaps the minimum of the weighting wasn't higher than the current table. I'm not sure which of these tables is the confidential one, so I can't. The top one's the confidential one, right? And the bottom one's?
No, the one that's...
Oh, that one, that other one.
Section.
Okay,
Yep.
So the weighting of your total scores, I would have actually expected higher, given that you've done the job for so long. So, but having said that, you got feedback from the department as well, that was taken into consideration and it had been discussed with you. So that's why I've moved it.
Councillor Graham.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and I thank Councillor Sullivan for sort of bringing this one forward. It is a bit of a tricky one when you have a close look at the qualitative scoring and then go to the confidential document and have a look at the pricing. So I won't go there. Having had a lifetime in this sort of field of assessing tenders and contracts in different areas, yes, there does seem to be a bit of an anomaly, I would say, and I'm not going to question it, but I'm just going to point out the fact that it seems unusual, in my view, where you have relevant experience, key personnel and demonstrated understanding, and the current contractor scores considerably less than the one that has been, and this is on page 32, so it is a public document, than the one that the officers are recommending. Now, there's obviously been feedback from the director, which is fantastic, so, Mr Mangano's perhaps got to accept it. I'm just saying these sort of things because it does seem odd, and then when you go and have a look at pricing, which I won't mention, I didn't mention it, so. So look, they're just my comments. Look, I don't know where to go. Look, I'll back the officers on this one. I just think it's one of those things. I mean, it comes down to value for money at the end of the day. Well, it used to when I was thingoed, and there's a million ways you can get a contractor to be a contractor to be successful. I can give you the tip on that. So anyway. Food for thought.
Any other comments on this one? Councillor Moughlin.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, well, ordinarily, when we have tenders come through to us, as a rule, we need to defer to the process that staff have run and the policy that we've endorsed for the assessment thereof. Contracts as they or tenders as they come up, and I suppose maybe I don't necessarily feel particularly comfortable in the position of going to necessarily challenge what the scores and ratings are, because we don't have that same expertise and knowledge to be able to complete those particular assessments. But I'm interested that, with the information that's been presented tonight, that there is that, as Councillor Graham pointed out, a potential anomaly in that sense. As a question to staff, and the director referred to this earlier, but I just wanted to check, are there any other processes available to evaluate and just confirm for council that this recommendation is as it is now, or is this the final position that officers have?
Thank you. Through the chair, this can be deferred, and this could be taken back to an MPA meeting for review. Be brutally honest, I'm not sure how we could challenge the officers in their assessment process. We have looked at it, we have tested the process and how they do it and how they do the evaluations, and they've followed the process and they've scored according to how they're required to do it. I would just add, it's important to note that in reviewing tender submissions, officers are asked to focus purely on the tender submission. So they don't sit there and think about who did what before or who I know. They're not allowed to do that. They focus purely on the content of each submission in the context of that tender. And secondly, I'd say again, we're not saying Northlake couldn't do the work. They provided a good submission. It was scored well. It was just beaten by a really good submission.
Councillor Moughlin.
Yeah, thanks for that. And based on that feedback, I'm willing to support the officer's recommendation.
Any other comments, Councillor Kamara?
I agree with fellow councillors. There are, looking at the report, there are some anomalies, but again, accept that the process is a thorough one. I do have one question. It's Surrun Services, where are they located? Like, I know North Lake Electrical Services are a local company, obviously they've done work with us for a long time. Do we know that?
Thank you, through the chair. I'd have to take that on notice. I have to check. I wasn't a part of the panel, but we can find out.
Okay, we might just be able to do a quick Google search on that one to try to get an answer. But we'll just make it while we're getting that going, just for folks that might be following along at home. I'll ask a question, I guess, is a better way to do this. On the price column on page 32, is it fair to say that the highest scoring number there, which is 20, would be the lowest price, and then the lowest number then would be the highest price, and you can kind of work out the in-between bits? Yeah, okay. So we could refer to that table on page 32 to talk about where people fall, I guess, on that. Do we have an answer as to where they're located?
Through the chair, they appear to be located in Naval Base.
Great. All right, any other comments on this item? Item 15, electrical services. If there are none, I'll go ahead and put it to a vote. All those in favor of the officer's recommendation? That's Councillor Slaughter, Moughlin, Graham, Kamada, Clark, Williamson, Wong, and Lawver. All those against? Councillor Sullivan. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Now we're on to item 18, the payment of accounts for October 2025. Can I get a mover and moved by Councillor Moughlin, seconded by Councillor Graham. All right, Councillor Moughlin.
Thanks. Just going to rehash a question from a couple of, last meeting in regards to the purchasing card transaction report and when we're expecting that to be updated.
Through the chair, I do apologise, I haven't quite got it through yet. We are just testing the report at the moment and hopefully having it through either December or January, the next suitable ordinary council meeting.
Thank you.
Any further comments on this item? No, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Okay, seeing as we have no committee and working group reports, no motions for which previous notice has been given, no urgent business, no late items, I'm going to ask that we have asked someone to move and second that we now go and deal with the confidential business. Moved by Councillor Moughlin, seconded by Councillor Clark. All those in favor of going into confidential business? That's unanimous? All right. So. seconded by Councillor Williamson Wong. All those in favor? Great, wonderful. We're now out of confidential business, and I just declare the meeting closed at 7:15 p.m. Good work, everyone.